Hey everybody, this is Reapy Ron, and today we're going to be doing another tier list for Killing Floor 2. Today we are going to be doing the Gunslinger tier list, and as you can see, Gunslinger has a lot of guns to go through, so this is going to be a rather long one. So we're going to start out with the starting equipment, and then just work our way down the line, and give my opinion on where each of these weapons should go. Tell me what your thoughts are down in the comments below, and where you would move things, and for whatever reason. So let's get started. The starting equipment for Gunslinger is the Bowie knife, the nail bomb, the 9mm, wherever the heck it is in here. There it is. And the dual 1858s. So let's start with the Bowie knife. Now the Bowie knife is going to go into D tier just like pretty much everybody else's knife. You're really not going to use it on Gunslinger. You usually have plenty of ammo with one of your 1,000 guns that you can use. And you're only really going to use it if you completely run yourself out of ammo, or if you need to do one of those panic blocks, which you usually don't need to do with Gunslinger anyway, because you can outrun so much stuff. So it's one of the coolest looking knives in the game, but it's also not that great. Alright, the 9mm pistol is going to go probably into B tier for Gunslinger, because Rack 'em Up is there. This also counts as, well, pistol for all Gunslinger related perks, and it gets an increased reload, it gets higher damage. It's actually quite good with Gunslinger. You can use this for quite a while, and it makes a pretty decent backup weapon to your backup weapon to your probably backup weapon if you're playing Gunslinger. Then we got the nail bomb. Now the nail bomb, in my opinion, is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, grenade in the game. It does shoot out a bunch of nails that do a low amount of damage to all enemies nearby and have a high chance of stunning them. Now the stun is pretty nice, but it's not a guaranteed stun. It's not like the SWAT's flashbang. So it's a somewhat random stun. It can be good for clearing small things like stalkers and crawlers, but overall it's not very good, and I don't particularly like using it. I'm going to put this in D tier. Alright, now we got the dual 1858s. These are your starting pistols, and the dual 1858s do 50 damage a shot. Combined, they have a total rate of fire of 545 rounds, which is pretty decent. They can kill most small things quite easily. They have a weight of 4, and you can upgrade them 4 times. The first 2 upgrades actually don't add any weight to these, and then the last 2 upgrades increase it by 2 weight each. So once they're fully upgraded, they do weigh 8, but then they're 2.2 times stronger. So then they're doing somewhere around 115-ish damage, which isn't bad. That's not bad, and with their pretty good rate of fire, they are not a bad weapon. They're definitely not as good as some of the other weapons that you can get later on, but they're not bad. I'm going to put these into B tier. They're pretty good. Now, rather than moving on to tier 2 weapons like we usually would with most other classes, we have to talk about all the other tier 1 weapons that Gunslinger has access to, because they have access to quite a few of them. So let's start with one 1858. Well, one 1858 can go up to a weight of 4. It has all the exact same stats as the dual ones, but lower rate of fire. Its rate of fire is 300 rounds a minute, but you do get but you don't have to lug around as much weight with it. It's not bad. It's pretty good if you can pick it up later on into the round after you've sold your 1858s, or if you want to toss one of these to maybe your sharpshooter friend, or maybe even medic if they were so nice to gift you their medic pistol. So I'm going to put this in C tier. It's not a weapon that I would really recommend going for with Gunslinger, at least just a single one, since dual work just fine too. But still not a bad weapon, still not a bad, like I said, backup to your however many backups you're carrying. Alright, up next we've got the medic pistol, and the medic pistol does 20 damage a shot. It has a 340-ish rounds rate of fire, holds 15 shots, it has good sights, and you can heal with it. It also only weighs 1 weight. You can also upgrade it once without adding any additional weight to it. And its upgrades actually scale rather high. Fully upgraded, it weighs 4, it has a reduced recharge time now by 60%, and it has 3 times base damage. So it can go up to 60 damage, which is quite a lot of damage. The main thing is 1 weight for the ability to heal, with it being an on-perk weapon, and this scaling extremely well with the Rack 'em Up skill. The medic pistol is going to go right into S tier. I think it's going to be lower S tier, but there's just so many combinations where you will have space to put a medic pistol and upgrade it once. One weight is not hard to squeeze into a loadout, especially for Gunslinger. Gunslinger is probably one of the best at using this gun. So it's always great if you have a medic friend on your team that gifts you one of these right at the start of the game, because maybe they want the medic SMG or something right away. It's really, really good. Alright, up next, the grenade pistol. Now, the grenade pistol is kind of an interesting one. So it has a weight of 4. It shoots out 7 pellets. The pellets on impact do 10 damage, and the explosion from those pellets do 30 damage apiece. So if you hit with all 10 pellets, or all 7 pellets, then you will do 280 damage in total with this. This gun also scales quite well. Once it's maxed out, it pretty much doubles in damage. It does double in weight though too. So at a weight of 8, this one's actually really not bad. It's a pretty surprisingly hard-hitting weapon even on Gunslinger. That being said, I don't think it's as good on Gunslinger as it is on Demo or maybe even Survivalist. It's also an incredibly fun weapon if you have the Whirlwind of Lead perk, where then you can pretty much fire it nonstop as long as Z time is going, because you don't need to reload it since it doesn't count as being empty in Z time. So for that, it's pretty good too. I'm going to put the grenade pistol also in B tier. I think I'll put it above the 9mm but below the 1858s. For Demo, I put this in A tier, and I think it is better on Demo. I don't think it's quite as good on Gunslinger because it does, at least if you want to upgrade it, it does somewhat restrict what you can carry too, and Gunslinger has a lot of very good weapons. Alright, and then our final tier 1 weapon for Gunslinger is the Winchester. Now, the Winchester weighs 5, it does 80 damage a shot, which is a lot for a tier 1 weapon, and it upgrades very well. It upgrades to 2.5 times damage at max, getting 4 more weight, so it goes up to a weight of 9, and then it will do 200 damage a shot, which is a lot. It still works with Rack 'em Up the same way it does with Sharpshooter. It's a very good weapon to pick up off the ground to use, and what's even better is this does have some more of the utility that Gunslinger has, other than like Sharpshooter, where you had to pick between either faster reloads or Rack 'em Up. This way, with Gunslinger, you can pick both. So I'm going to take the Winchester and I'm going to put that into A tier. I don't think it's quite as good with Gunslinger as it is with Sharpshooter, but it's still quite good. It's never a bad thing to see, and it's always great if you can pick this up off the ground. Alright, now moving on to tier 2 weapons. This is going to be an interesting one too. We're going to start out with the 1911. So the 1911 holds 8 shots, it weighs 2, it does a damage of 50, and it has a rate of fire of 340. So it is very similar to the 1858, does shoot a little bit faster, does have cleaner sights than the 1858. And it actually scales pretty decently too. When it's fully upgraded, it doubles in damage, so it goes up to 100 damage for an additional 2 weight, which is not bad. Usually I skip the 1911s, but the 1911s are not a bad option to take as well. They're still pretty decent overall, so I'm going to put a single 1911 down into C tier. I'm going to put the dual 1911s right next to the 1858s. 1858s do hit a little bit harder with upgrades. You also start with them, which is a bit of an advantage, but they do have a slower reload and a little bit slower rate of fire. Not by too much, but a little bit. They're both pretty much about on the same level, I'd say. Alright, up next we are going to talk about the Spitfires. Now the Spitfires are also a tier 2 weapon. They do 40 damage a shot. They shoot at around 550 rounds per minute. Which is okay. They do fire damage after they've hit, and they can also cause floor fires, dealing damage to Zeds that walk on top of that. They also scale surprisingly well. You don't get any additional weight for upgrading these once, and when you upgrade them all the way, they get an additional 75% more damage, going up to a total weight of 8. Now the dual Spitfires are definitely not a gun I'd recommend getting on Gunslinger or even a single one. You have better options. You kind of start out with better options too. The fire damage isn't that impactful. They're just not that desirable and usually should be avoided. So I'm going to put dual Spitfires in the top of C tier. I'm going to put a single Spitfire in D tier. The only real reason you should have these is maybe if your Firebug's wanting to get rid of them or something and just wants to gift them to somebody. You could maybe take 1 or 2 It seems like a weird scenario, but that's about the only scenario I could really see myself taking these with. Assuming I'm not doing like a challenge with them or something, because they are a bit harder to aim with. They do have more of a travel time. They don't scale as well as some of these other pistols do, and they're just all around a little bit weaker than the other pistols. Alright, so let's talk about the Winter Bites now. These are the Frost versions of the Spitfires, and these are also not really that desirable. It's kind of surprising that Sharpshooter didn't get to have one of these. That seems very strange since they've gotten every other revolver, and Sharpshooter actually does get the Frost Grenade. Now, these ones do a little bit more damage than the Spitfires. They do 49 damage a shot, with 20 damage on explosion, because the ice kind of explodes outwards. So you do have 60 damage on these. They have the same rate of fire as the Spitfires. They are pretty much identical to the Spitfires in every way, just they shoot ice so you can freeze something. And they scale a little bit better than the Spitfires, actually, because at max they actually double in damage and double in weight, going from 4 to 8 or from 2 to 4. These ones I also don't really ever use with Gunslinger. I've tried them, but it kind of feels like you're just sort of playing a support Gunslinger, and Gunslinger really shouldn't be playing as support, short of like the medic pistol. They don't really need to do status effects when they are one of the heaviest damaging classes in the game. So these are also going to go right next to the Spitfires. They're about the same in my opinion. You don't usually want to take them because you do have choices like these at the start. Alright, now we're going to talk about the Centerfire rifle, which is another cross-perk weapon with Sharpshooter. Now, the Centerfire does 165 damage a shot, which is a lot of damage per shot, especially at 5 weight. It holds 10 rounds, which is pretty good. It scales pretty well with upgrades, going up to a max damage of 239 damage a shot, which is a lot at 8 weight. This gun's actually really good on Gunslinger. I was debating putting this gun into S tier on Sharpshooter, because at 5 weight and 165 damage, that is a lot without really any upgrades. It has 150 round rate of fire, so same as the Winchester. It's a bit slower than some of these pistols. Actually, it's a bit slower than all these pistols besides maybe the grenade pistol. It does have the optic on it, which is nice. This gun is also really good, and I think I'm going to put it right here next to the Winchester, a little bit higher than it, because for a tier 2 weapon, it's quite strong without upgrades, and with upgrades, it does get pretty strong as well. Alright, so for tier 3 weapons now, I think I've caught up to that, yes. For tier 3 weapons, we're going to be talking about the Desert Eagles. Now, the dual Desert Eagles do 98 damage a shot. They weigh 4, they have 14 rounds in them, or 7 rounds with a single one. They have a 545 rounds per minute rate of fire. They also reload fairly fast, and they do scale well too, scaling up to 40% increased in damage at max, which is quite a bit. They also have more penetration than some of the other pistols do as well. Now, these weapons do some of the highest amounts of damage per second out of most of the Gunslinger weapons. They do scale very well. They are very strong to start with, and buying one Desert Eagle is actually really good early on. It does feel a bit more consistent than some of the other guns that you could buy one of, because it fits into that nice high damage but also somewhat decent capacity. So I'm going to put the Desert Eagles probably in the lower part of S tier. Some people would put them in a higher part of S tier. I don't think that they're as great. They are very good with rack 'em up, and they do their jobs very well. I'm also going to put the regular one Desert Eagle in A tier, because it is a very good weapon to pick early on. Alright, up next we're going to look at the other tier 3 weapon, which is the Rhinos. And the Rhinos are kind of a strange weapon, because they have explosive damage on them. So they do 75 damage a shot, plus 80 damage on shrapnel. Now shrapnel has to hit past another enemy, so this does have some penetration. The shrapnel actually has more penetration. It's a very strange weapon. It works well in tight hallways where enemies have to come in a straight line, and the shrapnel also cannot trigger rack 'em up, so only the actual bullet hitting will trigger rack 'em up. This also has a 600 round rate of fire, which is pretty good. These weapons also scale decently well. They scale the same as the Desert Eagles, but have a little bit less overall damage, but higher potential damage. And for that reason, I'm going to put them probably one tier less than the Desert Eagles. I'm still going to put the Rhinos in A tier and the single Rhino in B tier. They're pretty good guns overall. Alright, now for tier 4 weapons, we have the 500s. The 500s do 160 damage a shot. They do upgrade decently well at 15% with one upgrade. They weigh 6, so these weapons do hold one less round each than standard revolvers, so they hold 10 altogether, or 5, rather than 6 or 12. They have a little bit slower rate of fire at 315 rounds per minute rate of fire. These do have a lot of penetrative power too. You can punch through multiple Zeds with them. They are very strong, and I really enjoy using them. Some people I could see putting this in A tier, because it might not be you might want to prioritize damage per second over damage per bullet, but I'm going to put the 500s in S tier, and I'm going to put a single 500 at the top of A tier. Alright, now we've got the 2011s, and the 2011s are also interesting. They are what you would have if you quad-wielded 1911s, in a way. They shoot out 2 bullets per shot. Each bullet does 53 damage. You can build rack 'em up quite fast with these guns, because you're hitting with 2 shots as opposed to 1. You can also potentially kill 2 Zeds with 1 shot. That are standing side by side each other, which is a bit different. They have a very strange rate of fire of 461 rounds a minute. They also reload somewhat quickly, and their upgrade is kind of okay at 12.5% for an additional 2 weight. They weigh 6, so taking them up to a weight of 8. They also have a total capacity of 32 rounds. These guns are actually pretty strong. They can use rack 'em up very quickly, and they are one of the best weapons for doing that. I think that the dual ones are probably in S tier as well. They are quite good. The single one, I honestly don't really like a single 2011. It's not bad, but it still doesn't really feel like necessarily an upgrade if you just had regular 1911s for about the same price. So I'm actually going to put this one in probably B tier, right around here. I don't think it's worth getting one of these. It's best to get 2 of these and then use it. I would much rather go with one Desert Eagle or one 500 over one 2011, and then just save up for either dual Desert Eagles or dual 2011s or dual 500s. Alright, and then our last weapon is the dual Glocks. Now the dual Glocks, in my opinion, are still kind of overpowered. They do 37 damage a shot at 1200 rounds per minute, which is tied with the highest rate of fire. The only other guns that have the same rate of fire as this is the Chris SMG and the minigun that Commando has. A note to make though too is that the single one is not half as much. It's not 600 rounds per minute. It's actually 800 rounds a minute. And a single Glock 18 is actually quite strong. It's far more easy to control. You can shoot it at much greater distances than you can with the dual ones. They also weigh a total of 8. If you want to upgrade them, it upgrades by 12.5% for 2 extra weight, so 10 weight. That does limit them in how much you can actually carry though. At 10 weight, you are giving up more flexibility than with other weapons. That being said, they do still use rack 'em up insanely well. They ramp up in damage quite well from that. I wouldn't recommend upgrading them. I just recommend keeping them as is if you're going to use them. So I'm probably going to put the dual Glocks at the bottom of S tier. They aren't bad, and I'm going to put the single Glock probably right up at the top of A tier. I could actually see somebody taking the dual Glocks and putting them down to A tier and putting the single Glock up in S tier though, because single Glock does feel much more consistent than dual Glocks. Dual Glocks can just feel pretty overwhelming towards most enemies though. They work pretty well as trash killing Zeds, and they work pretty well as big killing Zeds too, even though they do have low damage. I think that's mostly because Gunslinger is just naturally good at doing that, so they can ramp up smaller weapons. I mean, you can take the medic pistol and use that the whole game, and you probably won't have a problem. Although the medic pistol does actually scale higher in damage than the Glocks. Yeah, so this is my opinion on Gunslinger's tier list. We only have one more class to do, and that's going to be SWAT, and then we're going to move on to Survivalist, so I guess 2 more classes, but Survivalist is going to be a giant list. SWAT's going to be a bit smaller, and that should be up tomorrow. Thanks everybody for watching this. I really do appreciate it. Thanks everybody for all the follows, the likes, the subscribes, everything that we've gotten, and thanks everybody for coming out to the charity streams. For anybody that's not aware, we are holding charity streams for the entire month of December, and it will continue into the first week of January. I'm saying this because in our last charity stream, we had a massive raid by Dr. Lupo, who showed up and completely blew up the chat and just blew away the goals entirely, and we ended up raising like $5,200 for St. Jude's Children's Hospital, which was amazing. And I am very grateful for that, and for anybody who would like to donate, you can. Like I said, there will be multiple charities all throughout the week. Starting every Sunday, we'll be doing a new charity. The next upcoming charities are going to be the American Red Cross and Anime for Humanity. Also, I stream every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So if you would like to support the channel there or any of the charities there, you can do that on those days. Thanks everybody for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I will talk to all of you guys next time. Till then, stay cool, and bye.